Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of NEWS2. I'm Sandra Goomansingh. In our top story, a string of mystery powder mailed in envelopes is being investigated. Envelopes containing the powder showed up at Scotiabank in Altona, St. Thomas, and at the post office today. But it was business as usual after authorities evacuated the federal court on St. Thomas and the law offices of Bennett Chan in Buccaneer Mall on Tuesday. At 12:38 p.m. on Tuesday, August 31st, the Virgin Islands Fire Service responded to a 911 call reporting that individuals working at the Ron DeLugo Federal Building had been exposed to a white powdery substance as they opened an envelope. 8 people were quarantined inside the 2 locations. 5 people were held inside the Ron DeLugo Federal Building and 3 others sequestered in the law office in Havenside. According to the FBI, none of the people in quarantine were showing any unusual symptoms. Fire personnel were met by the Judiciary Security Inspector, who escorted them to the 3rd floor at the Ron DeLugo Building on Tuesday, where the exposure had occurred, and exposed personnel remained isolated. Shortly after going to the 3rd floor, fire service personnel returned to the exterior of the building, where they remained on standby until the 3rd floor had been cleared and the individuals who had been quarantined there were given clearance to leave. At 4:23 p.m., while the crew at the federal building was still on standby, another fire crew was dispatched to the law office of Bennett Chan. Here's more.
You know, the federal court building, a bank, Scotiabank, the post office, and a few attorney's office. And responding to those, you know, the threats of the letters, the weapons of mass destruction agency in San Juan traveled to St. Thomas. Along there, they met with the 23rd Civil Support teams from St. Thomas, as well as the VI National Guard and by FEMA. And after a few letters were processed by the CSP, letters were deemed non-toxic, so they're harmless so far. Now they're still continuing to test the rest of the letters because there were a few that were found at the federal building, but far non-toxic. I've identified a person. When I say we, I mean the FBI agents assigned there in St. Thomas. They have identified a possible person that was suspected of mailing those letters, and if this person is found to be the person responsible for mailing those letters, that person will be charged with mailing, for mailing threatening communication.
Again, a person of interest has been identified. The white powder was being investigated to see whether it was a hoax or an anthrax. In 2001, anthrax attacks involving white powder made headlines. It was sent through the mail, killing 5 and sickened 17 people. Count on 2 to keep you updated. No update on the shocking murder of Gregory Lewis, but a private entity has offered a reward for any information leading to an arrest. Funeral services were held on Monday, August 29th at the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church. On August 18th, the fireman was shot in the back of the head while he was sitting on a bench outside the hotel company station by Fort Christian. He was born on St. Thomas, attended the St. Thomas St. John Seventh-day Adventist School, and grew up in Nada. After high school, Gregory followed in his father's footsteps, working in construction and carpentry. He embarked upon his own business as the owner-operator of Best Quality Construction. He later joined the VI Fire Department in 1994 and always went above and beyond the call of duty. He rededicated his life to the Lord and married Doreen Brown Lewis. He leaves behind 2 daughters, 3 sons. The youngest is 4. Meanwhile, still no arrests on the double murder of 2 St. Croix police officers, Officers Leisha Lamy, 30 years old, and Kai JAVOI, 28. Officer Lamy was laid to rest on Thursday, and Officer JAVOI was laid to rest Friday by family, friends, and fellow police officers. Lamy joined the VIPD as a police recruit on December 13, 2010, promoted to Virgin Islands police officer on June 23, 2011, assigned to the Wilbur Francis B Command on October 4, 2015. Officer Kai JAVOI joined VIPD as a police recruit on May 11, 2015, promoted to Virgin Islands police officer on December 14, 2015, and assigned to the Anselmo Marshall Command on June 26, 2016. You are urged to please call the Criminal Investigations Bureau, Crime Stoppers, or 911. On Friday, August 26, Virgin Islands Bureau of Corrections officials appeared in front of Judge Curtis Gomez for their quarterly settlement agreement status hearing. The Bureau of Corrections met 4 out of 6 goals set for this quarter. While noting that there was more work ahead, Judge Gomez was generally pleased with the traction made and the direction the Bureau has taken. B.O.C. Director Mulgrave said that the Bureau was working hard to meet all of the court's directives. He agrees progress has been made, not as rapidly as they would like it to be, but he says the hard work is being put forward. Well, the Department of Education invited members of the media to tour the newly installed basketball floor of the BCB Gymnasium. A donor provided the generous funds to make it possible, and everyone looks forward to welcoming students back to school with this major upgrade. Many coaches, members of Department of Education's facilities team, and the school's administration were on hand for the unveiling of the new floor.
I am very happy to announce and to unveil to the public the new gym floor, the new wooden gym floor at Bertha C. Bashalta Middle School. This project is a demonstration of what can happen when the public schools are supported by the private sector as well as other entities of the government. The wooden floor that we have here was given to us by the University of the Virgin Islands.
We really needed this floor, because when teams from other areas come here, they will not use BCB because we did not have a wooden floor. If it were not for her, this floor would not be here today. So therefore, as I stand, I would like to give a certificate to her and saying certificate of appreciation for Dr. Sharon Ann McCullum with sincere thanks for your tireless efforts and valuable support to the children of the Virgin Islands.
As we reported on Tuesday, the Committee on Education and Workforce Development began their 2016 tour and assessment of public schools on the island of St. Thomas and St. Croix. The tour on St. Thomas was held on Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, St. Thomas schools toured so far are the Lockhart Elementary, CAHS, Dober, Muller, Gladys Abraham, Cancrine, Sibley, Edith Williams, E. Benjamin Oliver, Gomez, Yvonne Milner-Bowski, Eudora Ken, and Bertha C. Bashalta. Tours continue on St. Croix Thursday and Friday, and we will have another update on the schools. As we shared in last night's newscast, in honor of National Breastfeeding Awareness Month, the Educational Institute at the Juan Louis Hospital hosted a breastfeeding symposium. The hospital also gave a tour of the new corporate lactation room. Here's more from that dedication. In honor of National Breastfeeding Awareness Month, the Education Institute at the Juan Louis Hospital and Medical Center, in collaboration with the VI Department of Health's Women, Infant, and Children's Program, hosted a breastfeeding symposium to promote support and awareness on the importance of breastfeeding.
And because the first milk, the first bonding is very important for the baby and mother. And the first milk, which is colostrum, what I'd like to talk about. A lot of carbohydrates and benefits for the mom, helps seals the guts for the baby, and antibodies, also is a form of immunization.
This year's theme is breastfeeding, a key to sustainable development, and that puts the spotlight on a child's healthy development from the start. There were presenters from WIC, the Department of Health, Juan F. Louis Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, and more. Following the symposium, participants and members of the media were invited to the unveiling and blessing of Juan F. Louis' new corporate lactation room.
We should actually have some place for employees to pump, because we've had a lot of moms who were employees that would try to steal a little break. We would let them use one of the rooms that are empty, and then there were times that we were full and we had no place for them to pump. So we thought about it, and we had this room, and we decided that we were going to actually turn it into a corporate breastfeeding room for our employees at Wang Louis.
The room includes 2 recliners, a privacy curtain, and access to hospital-grade Medela breast pumps.
Based on what the baby receives through her breast milk, that can help to protect that baby throughout his lifetime.
Now, federal labor laws require employers to provide employees with a private space other than a bathroom to express milk. August is recognized as Breastfeeding Awareness Month, A JetBlue flight took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida earlier today. Destination, Cuba. It will be the first commercial flight between the U.S. and Cuba in more than half a century, CNN's Patrick OPPMANN reports.
Havana's colonial Old Town is full of music and increasingly visitors from the United States.
And they were happy. This is an official newspaper of the Cuban Communist Party.
Just 2 years ago, Americans visiting Cuba without special permission from the U.S. government faced the prospect of hefty fines, even prosecution. But the thaw in U.S.-Cuban relations and loosening of restrictions on travel to the communist-run island has led to a surge in U.S. visitors, up 93% from last year, according to Cuban government figures. Many Americans say they want to see Cuba while the island remains stuck in a Cold War time warp.
Our friends had been here, and so they said, let's go, why don't you go to Cuba before it becomes too westernized?
Too westernized?
Yes, before you see McDonald's and Walmart and all of the other U.S. companies here in Cuba.
Cuba's largely state-run tourism industry is already buckling under the increased demand.
The hotels are full. The infrastructure wasn't ready for the avalanche of interest, whether it's American travelers, Chinese travelers, Canadian travelers. Cuba is building their infrastructure up. They have plans over the next 4 or 5 years to add many additional hotels. So we just advise people to plan ahead.
Tourism will likely continue to boom. Soon it will be much easier for Americans to fly to the island. Up until now, the only way that Americans could come to Cuba was via third countries or on expensive, inefficiently run charter services. But that's all changing now that direct flight service is being restored between the U.S. and Cuba after more than 50 years. Patrick OPPMANN, CNN, Havana, Cuba.
Keeping our eye on the economy, the European Commission has ruled Apple owes Ireland more than $14 billion in unpaid taxes dating back to 2003. It stems from Apple's business arrangement with Ireland, which the EU now says has been illegal all along. Apple's CEO is calling the ruling unprecedented and says it threatens national sovereignty. Ireland is also disputing it. The U.S. Secretary warns it could undermine the U.S. and Europe's economic relations. Here's a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. As we can see, everything down. The Dow down 53, NASDAQ down 9, S&P 500 also down 5. Coming up on News 2, more back-to-school news in our back-to-school segment. Plus, the Zika surveillance report is out and the new number of cases reported this week, 50. Don't miss our Fight the Bite segment coming up. Welcome back. VI Attorney General Claude Walker is encouraging the St. Croix District Board of Elections to hold a public discussion regarding Alicia Chucky Hansen. He says the board needs to re-examine its position and make a decision as to whether it may be beneficial to the public to witness the deliberations. The question is whether Hansen, whose legal name is Alden Alicia Pickering, is legally eligible to run for office since she did not register under her legal name. Loretta Peterson, who's the district chairwoman of the VI Democratic Party, said the party filed a challenge affidavit on August 24th regarding Hansen's status as an elector after seeing a public notice about her petition for name change. Hansen is a no-party candidate running for a St. Croix Senate seat. District Court Judge Curtis Gomez sentenced today Jose Luis Ponce Pagan, 36, of Puerto Rico, to 126 months imprisonment and 5 years supervised release for conspiracy to possess cocaine with the intent to distribute. Judge Gomez ordered Ponce Pagan to pay a $100 special assessment and perform 300 hours of community service. On March 29, 2016, Ponce Pagan pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess cocaine with the intent to distribute. According to the plea agreement filed with the court, between August 30, 2015 and September 3, 2015, Ponce Pagan and at least one other person arranged to purchase approximately 100 kilograms of cocaine on St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, for the distribution in Puerto Rico. The Red Hook community met with the Joint Task Force at the library. It was well attended, about 40 to 50 people on Tuesday night, and these meetings are held to discuss concerns in the neighborhood. They discussed many topics, including recent rapes, noise issues, and even a noise ordinance. They also discussed East End businesses, more police patrols, and licenses. A follow-up meeting is scheduled on Thursday at 10 a.m. Beginning Thursday, September 1st, the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority will conduct trenching and cable installation operations along the Cyril King Airport roadway from the base of Sarah Hill to the Moravian Highway intersection. Crews will work weekdays from 4 p.m. to midnight and weekends from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. from September 1st through September 30th. This work facilitates the Vaitima Underground project, which allows the authority to build a utility duct bank and extend feeder 5A to the Vaitima headquarters. When this federally funded project is complete, Vaitima will be sourced by 2 distribution feeders, 5A and 6A, which will increase the reliability of their electrical service and provide more stability during emergencies. More back-to-school news there. The administration of the Lumuckle Elementary School, they're holding parental orientation on Friday, September 2nd in the school's cafeteria from 10 a.m. to 12 for parents of new and returning students from grades 1st grade to 6th grade, beginning at 1 p.m. Orientation will be held for parents of all kindergarten students. Now, parents should attend without their child and be prepared to pay school fees of $15 for an ID card and $17 for school insurance. A $10 PDA fee is also required. Barbara McGregor, who is the principal of the Juanita Gardin Elementary School, announces that an orientation session for all parents and students will be held on Friday, September 2nd, beginning at 1:30 p.m. in the school's auditorium. Now, school accident insurance, ID cards, and PE uniform fees should be paid at that orientation. Well, for the second week in a row, the Department of Health reports 50 new confirmed cases of Zika. To date, the territory has seen a total of 243 cases, which is up from 193. Last week, St. Thomas had 42 new cases confirmed since last week for a total of 199 cases on the island. St. Croix saw 7 new confirmed cases in a week for a total of 40, and St. John had 1 new case since last week for a total of 4 confirmed cases. Now, here is our last installment of the Fight the Bite with the Department of Health. Tell us about how you're working with the CDC and maybe what the department is doing on a regular basis.
So the CDC is an agency within the federal government, within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and they're responsible for all public health activities. So they work with every state, they work with every territory, they also work with other countries around the world. And so the CDC is working very closely with us to assist us in developing educational materials. We're going to be rolling out some new PSAs. We're going to be rolling out some new flyers. There'll be PSAs that'll be on the radio to help educate the community. And so CDC is assisting us with those efforts. They're also manning our Emergency Operations Center. So when those calls come in, and we've received a lot of calls, they're there to assist us in answering any question that anyone has. They're also working with us to go out and give presentations in the community, which we've done at schools and we've done at churches. I actually participated in a presentation that was given to food handlers, individuals who are going to work as food handlers and food preparers who are going to be at summer camps for kids this summer. And so they're doing that type of work as well. We definitely put out our weekly surveillance reports that is also put on our website and on our Facebook page, and so CDC assists us with that. CDC is also assisting us with actually performing the test to determine whether or not an individual has Zika. So those blood tests and those urine tests that we take, CDC is actually analyzing those for us and giving us back the results. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, that's all the questions I have, unless there's anything else you want to add.
Well, I just want to, make sure that the public, once again, is prepared and that you do have our 800 or our hotline number that I gave earlier, and it's 340-712-6205. The health department is available to provide you any information that you may need about Zika, and we want everyone to be prepared and to fight the bite.
Now, as we turn our attention over to Puerto Rico, as of Friday, Puerto Rico reported more than 14,000 cases, including 1,244 among pregnant women. A Pennsylvania drug company, Inovio Pharmaceuticals, Inc., will be testing its DNA-based vaccine candidate in 160 adult volunteers in Puerto Rico. And if the results are good, the company will meet with regulators next year to discuss plans to develop that vaccine. Puerto Rico was selected because of the number of cases. The first trials have been conducted in June with volunteers in the U.S. and Canada. They are still awaiting the results. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.
Relatively tranquil in the Virgin Islands. We're looking at a couple of trade wind showers breaking out just near us, but for the most part, generally quiet conditions. No complaints here. Good evening to everyone out here in the Virgin Islands. Current satellite showing us not a whole lot going on to our south, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, all the way down into the leewards. Now, it's a different story up to our northwest, where we are talking about Hermine, that's producing heavy rains around West Cuba, and it has its eye in the southeastern portions of the United States. Now, what's going on out toward the east, we are keeping track of a very strong tropical wave that has a very small potential force and development, of course. That is for next week, and that's something to continue to monitor as it continues to track its way out west. But notice here the radar showing us not a whole lot going on. If anything, just a couple of brief showers impacting us. For tonight, we're looking at mainly clear skies. Temperatures relatively mild, taking a tumble back into the lower 80s. And then as we take you into the day tomorrow, we'll be back into the low 90s here at St. John's, partly sunny skies. But of course, we can never rule out the chance for that shower to pass by the area. And same goes for you folks here in St. Thomas, a high of 91 degrees, but for the most part, looking at a mix of sun and clouds during the day. And same deal in St. Croix with a high of 90 degrees under partly sunny skies, the chance for a passing shower or two. The marine forecast in the Atlantic side, we're talking about waves anywhere between 3 to 5 feet to getting in more of an easterly flow, anywhere between 15 to 20 knots. Of course, again, we can expect very similar marine conditions around the Caribbean side, with waves increasing up to 5 feet and winds out of the east anywhere between 15 to 20 knots. Now, as we check out your extended outlook for the most part here on Friday, even as we take you into the weekend, very typical for this time of year to see a mix of sun and clouds and just a passing shower or two in the vicinity. Same deal Saturday. Sunday, we'll see the uptick of showers and storms with that tropical wave that's going to pass through the area, of course. Continue to stay tuned on this feature. Sandy, back to you.
Thanks for that. Let's take a look at our News 2 weather picture there by Faith Joseph, who is enjoying the last days of summer break with plans to go out and do some surfing and hoping for that sunshine, a little bit of sprinkles to cool things off. Faith, thank you for that, of the Great Minds Tutoring Service. That is all for this edition of News 2. We'd like to thank you for joining us for all the latest in news and weather. That is all for now. I'm Sandra Goomansingh. We'll see you next time.